AITA for refusing to increase our wedding budget after my fiancé threw plates at me? I was about to get married in a few days until my fiancé called off the whole wedding. Everything seemed normal until she went on a trip for her bachelorette party with her friends. That's when things started to change. When she came back from that trip, she didn't seem like herself anymore. The moment I saw her at the airport, I knew something was wrong. She looked distraught, like something heavy was weighing her down. Normally, she would have run to me, hugged me, and told me all about her trip. But this time, she barely said a word. It felt like I was driving a stranger home, not the woman I was about to marry. Trying to cheer her up, I went out of my way to cook her favorite meal, pasta, in case you were wondering. I thought it would make her happy and show her how much I had missed her, but instead of being happy or grateful, she became very upset. She told me she had already eaten and that I had wasted my time cooking for her. I told her it was no big deal, but she insisted, saying she felt guilty for not wanting to eat what I had made. This small detail turned into an argument, and I could feel that her frustration wasn't really about the pasta. I tried to stay calm when she got upset about the pasta. I told her it was absolutely no big deal, that she didn't have to eat it right away, and that she could save it for later if she wanted. Instead of easing the tension, she suddenly turned it into a bigger fight. She told me I never ask her before doing something for her, that I just make assumptions and act on my own. Then, without letting me explain, she said she was going to the bedroom to sleep so her mood would pass. I assumed she was probably just tired from the flight, and that's why she was cranky. Honestly, I thought a few hours of sleep would be enough to calm her down, and she'd be back to her old self when she woke up. But that's not what happened. The next day, things didn't get better. They only got worse. From that morning on, it felt like every little thing I did became a reason to argue with me. If I tried to help her, she got angry. If I sat down to spend time with her, she found a reason to turn it into a fight. It was as if nothing I did was right anymore, even the simple things that used to make her happy. Yesterday, out of the blue, she told me I was emotionally manipulative and that she hoped I would end up with a smarter partner. This all started because I asked her to slow down on the wedding spending, which was starting to get out of control. To give some context, my fiancée has absolutely no savings. She's never really had the chance to build a financial cushion. She comes from a modest background, and her relationship with her extended family is strained. They barely speak to her and aren't involved in her life. In fact, they aren't even invited to the wedding. That's a whole other story. Because of all this, she has always lived pretty much paycheck to paycheck. On my end, I've always been careful and disciplined with money. I've been saving for years, and that's how I was able to buy the condo where we live and the car we use. I've also been the one providing for her, even long before our engagement. You see, my fiancée has been living with me in my condo since we started dating. Plus, she uses my car whenever she wants, and I've never made an issue of it. For the wedding expenses, on top of my savings, my parents also contributed to help us cover the costs. They gave their own money to make sure everything would be perfect for the big day because they were happy to see us start our life together. It's not that she wastes her money, but her job pays less than mine. She contributes in other ways, like buying groceries and keeping the house clean. That's why it hurts so much when she turned what should have been a practical conversation about the wedding budget into a personal attack on my character and intelligence. My fiancée was insisting on having an ice sculpture and cabaret dancers to greet the guests at the venue. To me, this was excessive and unnecessary, especially given all the money we were already spending. I told her it made no sense to spend so much on things like that when the expenses were already piling up. Instead of discussing it calmly, her behavior escalated. She started insulting me, calling me names, and looking for ways to hurt me with anything she knew would get to me. I tried to calm her down, but she lost control in one of her fits. This wasn't a normal argument where you say a few hurtful words, and that's it. She was in a full-on, destructive mode. She started throwing whatever she could get her hands on. Among the things she threw at me were the dinner plates, even as I was asking her to calm down. I had just bought new ceramic plates, so we would have nice things to start our new life with. Watching them shatter on the floor felt symbolic of what was happening to us. Things were breaking faster than I could fix them. Between screams, she kept repeating the same accusations, that I never gave her what she wanted, that I didn't treat her like she deserved, and that it was as if I didn't even want to marry her. Honestly, I didn't understand why she was so angry and upset. It wasn't like I wanted to deprive her of a special day. I just wanted us to be reasonable. I tried to explain that between my savings and the money my parents had generously contributed, we had more than enough to have a beautiful wedding. We didn't need ostentatious and unnecessary luxuries to make it meaningful. I told her that in my heart, a wedding is supposed to be about the two people committing to each other, not a show for the guests. For me, the vows, the love, and celebrating with those we love most was what mattered, not spending thousands of dollars on ice sculptures and dancers just to impress others. But no matter how I explained it, she didn't seem to be listening. So we had this fight. I felt like she cared more about appearances and what other people thought than about the life we were trying to build together. At one point during the argument, she looked me straight in the eye and said she didn't even know who I was anymore. She told me it was like I had become a completely different person she no longer wanted to marry. Then there was the whole plate incident that I already told you about, and since it was the most significant part, I mentioned it first. But after that scene, other things happened. It didn't stop there. She rushed to the bedroom. I followed, only to see her pulling out her suitcase and throwing clothes into it. She started saying she needed time away from me. We were about to get married. She was acting erratically, and apparently, she needed time away from me. I told her that if she needed time, it would be better to call off the whole wedding and not waste our time. I've never heard of someone leaving the house because they need time and then coming back a few days later with everything back to normal. She replied that she agreed to call everything off, but she grabbed her shoes and threw them at me. One of them struck me on the cheek. The other, I managed to dodge quickly. Instead of asking if I was okay, instead of apologizing for hurting me, she just kept screaming, her words filled with venom. The screaming was so loud at that point that I wasn't surprised to hear a knock at the door. I guess one of the neighbors called the police after hearing the chaos. A few moments later, 2 officers were at our door. Immediately, my fiancée, realizing that the police's arrival could lead to her arrest, started begging me not to say anything against her. She pleaded with me, her voice suddenly soft and trembling, not to report her or press charges. But it was already too late to hide what had happened. As soon as the officers saw my injured face, where the shoe had hit my cheek, they entered without hesitation. Their eyes scanned the room, taking in the chaos around us. Broken plates on the floor, shattered glass all over the living room, clear evidence of a serious dispute. They immediately started questioning us, trying to piece together what had happened. I told them exactly what occurred while she tried to downplay the situation as if it wasn't that serious. At least, I have to admit she didn't lie and claim I was the aggressor and that she was defending herself. If she had done that, I might not be writing this now. Or maybe I would, because the police knew a woman was screaming, which must have been what the neighbors reported. Plus, she didn't have a single scratch or mark on her. I also don't remember raising my voice during the entire argument, and from the outside, she looked more like the aggressor than the victim. In the end, the officers had no choice but to take her into custody. The moment they put her in handcuffs, she lost control again. She turned on me, screaming at the top of her lungs, accusing me of not helping her. She acted as if I had betrayed her, as if I was the reason they were taking her away, when she had caused all of this herself. It was the most surreal thing because this was the woman I was going to marry, yet she was being taken away in handcuffs for her actions toward me. Before leaving, the police officers turned to me and said I needed medical attention. They could see the cut on my cheek, which was still bleeding, as well as the marks on my arms. Following their advice, I went to an urgent care clinic that night and got stitches. Throughout the night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Her family and friends bombarded me with calls, each one worse than the last. Instead of asking if I was okay, instead of worrying about why I was hurt, they yelled at me. They called me weak, told me I wasn't a real man, and accused me of being responsible for her legal troubles, as if my only role was to cover for her actions, no matter what she did. Meanwhile, my own parents were very worried about me, constantly asking if I was okay, if I needed anything. They told me they were just thankful I was safe. Today, someone posted her bail. I don't know who yet, because it's clear I wasn't going to get an answer from her. As for who might have paid this woman's bail, it's probably someone who dislikes me right now. No matter what she did, she still has defenders who see me as the villain and her as the poor victim who had a difficult situation. They're her guests, her friends, so it doesn't surprise me at all. When she came back to the condo, she didn't even stop to talk. She went straight to the bedroom, got her suitcase, and started packing all her clothes. Between sobs, she kept blaming me, saying I had ruined everything, that I had humiliated her, that I was the reason for her arrest. I kept my distance, waiting for her to take all her things without the situation escalating again. A little later, there was a knock at the door. One of her friends came to pick her up, didn't even look at me, took her suitcases, and left with her. Her friend didn't say much either. Apparently, I'm the bad guy in this story. He wasn't one of the ones who had texted me, but it's not hard to guess what he really thinks. 2 hours after she left, I got a call from our reception venue. The person on the phone told me that my fiancée had contacted them directly and canceled the reservation. I think that's the only right thing she's done in the last few hours. With all this chaos, I hadn't even had time to think about canceling everything. At least she saved me that trouble, although I think she did it out of spite, thinking I wouldn't do it and that it would prove she was done with me. There are still a lot of things to cancel, not to mention informing those who don't yet know that the wedding is off. My parents and some people on my side already know. I didn't even have to say anything. Knowing what happened the other night is enough to understand there will be no wedding. So there you have it. I just needed to talk to someone after everything went to hell in a few hours or days. Update 1. I've read the comments and noticed people are asking the same questions over and over. So, I decided to do a Q&A. I don't have much information on my ex-fiancée at the moment. I don't know where she's staying or what she's doing. Why do you keep calling her your fiancée after everything she did? Honestly, I don't know what else to call her right now. I don't want to give her a nickname because that never ends well, and in the long run, you end up writing the real one. And until recently, she was my fiancée, even if technically everything is canceled and there's no chance we're getting married. Not that I want to now, but I'll get to that later. Why didn't you pay her bail after she was arrested by the police? Because literally, this person was no longer my concern. She acted out, made me out to be the bad guy, and I wasn't going to let that slide. The fact that I loved her at one point doesn't mean I'll tolerate everything she does. I'm also not saying I don't love her anymore, which I've also read in the comments. But one thing is to love someone, and another is to know what's right for you. She could have chosen to have a conversation with me about anything. Instead, she chose to do all of this. Had she ever been physically aggressive before? The plate throwing is new. She has had fits in the past, but this level of destruction and screaming was something I'd never seen. That's why it's something I can't ignore. It's not something that's going to magically stop just because you're the one paying for everything. My fiancé, my ex, or whatever, you guys are really going to make me give her a nickname. Doesn't have a great job. Even her trip wasn't paid for by her, but by her friends who bought the ticket and organized everything. It's not that I pay for absolutely everything, just the wedding-related expenses. As I said before, she pays for some things for the house. Do you think she was unfaithful during her bachelorette party? I think this is the most discussed topic in the comments, which makes perfect sense. I have no proof, so I can't accuse her of something I can't prove, but I admit I've thought about it since she came back a completely different person. She was cold, distant, and angry as if she had shut down emotionally. I don't have proof, but I don't need it either. At this point, everything is over between us. So the fact that she was unfaithful would just be the icing on the cake in my judgment of her. Honestly, I'd only be surprised if she wasn't. Do you still want to marry her? At this point, I think I've already answered that question. My heart doesn't just turn off overnight and decide I don't love her anymore. But I can't just listen to my heart either. There are too many red flags for my mind not to say stop. I'm taking over now. I'm devastated and confused, but not to the point of making the worst mistake of my life. Update 2. After everything that happened, there's one lingering question I can't get out of my head. Why? Why did my fiancé change so suddenly, so drastically? Nothing makes sense except infidelity. Everything points to that bachelorette party. And even though I said it wouldn't change my decision, I couldn't just live with the uncertainty either. So I decided to try to find out the truth for myself, a little detective work. I thought about who I could turn to, and one person came to mind. One of her friends who was on that trip and might have the courage to tell me the truth. I ruled out the others because I knew they would just cover for her. This friend has also been close to me over the years, not just her. I've always considered her to be someone reliable, someone I could count on. In fact, I even helped her get a job by recommending her at my old company. That's why I thought if I wanted to get the truth, it would be through her. I sent her a simple but honest message. I asked her to tell me if anything had happened, anything at all, that could explain why my ex-fiancé was acting this way so suddenly. I promised her that whatever she told me would stay between us, that I wouldn't repeat it to anyone. I knew there was a 50-50 chance she would reply, let alone tell me the truth. She could have easily ignored me or lied to me to avoid getting involved, especially if she felt like she was betraying my ex's trust. But despite the uncertainty, it seemed like my only hope. After hours of staring at my phone, waiting and hoping, I finally got a call from her friend. Thankfully, she told me everything. She said that since one of the nights of the party, she had been carrying a huge sense of guilt. She said she couldn't stay silent anymore because she knew I didn't deserve to be left in the dark. It turns out my fiancé had broken my trust, not with one man, but with several. Her friend admitted she didn't know all their names or the details, but that my fiancé had openly told her group of friends about it during that trip. As if that wasn't enough to destroy me, she added something even worse. According to her, my fiancé had told the group that she was only marrying me for the money, especially because I already had a condo and was not financially unstable. It isn't really a surprise, but hearing those words didn't feel good either. Knowing that the woman I loved, the one I was about to marry, had reduced our relationship to mere financial security was more than humiliating. And no, I don't think all women are like that, but the ones I've had apparently have this kind of idea. My fiancé's friend also sent me photos that proved everything she had told me. The first one showed my fiancé and her friends at their Airbnb, laughing and dancing with male entertainers. I didn't know if I should keep scrolling through the pictures, but I did, and in a way, it was a good thing, as you'll soon understand. Then came the picture I could never erase from my mind. My fiancé leading one of the entertainers to her room. The implication was clear. There was no more room for excuses or denial. I didn't have proof of the other situations, but this was enough. A bachelorette party isn't a free pass. This was absolutely a betrayal. Despite everything, I managed to thank her friend for her honesty. I promised her I would never put her in jeopardy for telling me the truth, as I knew how hard it must have been for her to betray her own friend. But she surprised me again. She didn't want to be friends with my fiancé anymore after what she had done. Not just to me, but to herself as well. It was as if she too had reached her limit. With everything I know now, with the truth right in front of me, I've made a decision. I'm going to expose my fiancé for who she really is. For days, I've been attacked, blamed, and humiliated while her family and friends blindly defended her, making me out to be the bad guy. But now, I see things clearly. Anyone who chooses to take her side, despite what she's done, is as responsible as she is. They want to defend her. Fine. Then they can defend all this proof of her actions. It's easy to defend someone when it's just words against words, but we'll see how many still defend her when faced with irrefutable proof that she was not a faithful fiancé. I have her friend's permission to use all of this, and she doesn't really care about the consequences. She told me she also felt guilty for keeping this to herself for a while, so a little pressure won't hurt her. Update 3. Well, folks, it's been a few days since my last update, and I finally did what I said I would do. I sat down and wrote a long social media post exposing my ex-fiancée for everything she did to me. It wasn't easy to reveal all of this, but after her family and friends made me out to be the bad guy for so long, I knew I had to show the truth. In that post, I told everything. How she turned on me right after her bachelorette party, how she provoked fights, how her actions became physical, and finally, how she betrayed my trust. But I didn't stop at words. I also attached proof because I knew people would deny it or accuse me of lying. I was expecting the usual comments. You're lying. You're just a loser who can't accept that his fiancée left him. I included all the information her own friend had given me, showing my fiancée with entertainers at the Airbnb and then slipping away with one of them to her room. On top of that, I attached my official police report from the night she was arrested. And because words weren't enough to describe what I had been through, I also added photos of the injuries she gave me with her shoe. Some people complained, saying a shoe couldn't cause that kind of injury. But, and this isn't just because I'm angry with her, my ex's large feet. Plus, she used the hardest, heaviest shoe she could find, as if she had carefully chosen her weapon. In my post, I made sure to explain in detail something that is often misunderstood. Being a man doesn't mean I can't be a victim of domestic issues. Society often assumes that men are always the stronger ones, that we can't be hurt or manipulated in a relationship, or that I should be able to dodge a shoe thrown at my face. My ex-fiancée played softball for a while, so she has a good arm. But the truth is very different. I wanted people to understand that these situations aren't about gender, but about power, control, and betrayal. I also explained to her family and friends why they were complicit. They protected her, excused her behavior, all while knowing a large part of the truth about what had happened. I told them they shouldn't get off so easily because they had turned a blind eye to the manipulation and physical harm I had endured. It wasn't just my fiancé's fault. It was also the fault of everyone around her who enabled her. It was brutal, painful, and humiliating to expose my private life for everyone to see. But at the same time, it was necessary so there would be no doubt about what had happened, and so my ex-fiancée wouldn't get away with it. After the post, many people, friends and strangers, reached out to support me, expressing their shock and saying they couldn't believe what I had been through. Some thanked me for speaking out and showing that men can also be victims. I might have expected a different reaction, but I was surprised. Even people who were initially on her side changed their tune. Although I don't trust those people. Of course, not everyone reacted positively, which was to be expected. My ex-fiancé's family and friends immediately mobilized. As soon as they saw the post, they started texting, commenting, and calling me, trying to defend her. They insulted me, accused me of lying, and said whatever came to their minds without thinking. I mean, these people have photos in front of them, and yet they accuse me of lying. Sure, I made up that my ex-fiancée was leading a man into a room because it didn't happen during the bachelorette party, because it surely happened long before, even though she looks exactly as she does today. And because it didn't happen during a bachelorette party, then it would be acceptable. I can't stand this line of thinking anymore. Some even tried to gaslight me, insisting that she was the victim and I was the one creating the drama. You have photos, a police report, the ex-friend confirming everything in the comments, and you still think she's the victim. Honestly, no sane person should reply to these people because it's like talking to a wall. Later, my ex-fiancée called me. She was crying uncontrollably, her voice trembling as she tried to explain herself. She said it wasn't what it looked like in the photo, that it was taken out of context. Yeah, sure. The context is her holding a man's hand while going into a room. How many people can believe that? She said she was only going to show him something. We all know what she was going to show him. No need to write it here. She tried to justify herself, make excuses, and appeal to my compassion. I told her not to waste her time explaining. I already had all the explanations I needed and more. She told me her friends were starting to cut ties with her, pulling away, and that my post was ruining her life, reaching more and more people every hour. She begged me to delete the post for the sake of the years we had been together. Surely the same thing she was thinking about while being unfaithful. She tried to play on my emotions with tears and apologies. But after everything she did to me, the lies, the betrayal, the harm, and the humiliation, I wasn't going to delete it. I kept listening because I was recording the entire conversation since I saw it was her calling. Want to guess where that recording ended up after the call? You've guessed part of it. Besides social media, it was also provided to the authorities. During the call, she admitted to some of the things she did that night. I told her I would not delete the post, no matter what she said or did. Then she tried to intimidate me. She threatened to sue me for defamation, claiming my post was damaging her reputation. I told her, go ahead, do it. Knowing I was recording everything, I reminded her who the aggressor was in this situation. With the proof of her infidelity, the photos, the police report, and the evidence of the physical harm she inflicted on me, it would be extremely easy for me to pursue legal action against her and expose her even more. She insulted me and hung up, furious. The funny thing is, I misled her because even if she doesn't sue me, I'm going to pursue my own legal options anyway. I know this will probably prolong this story, but I intend to get consequences for all of this. If she sues me, the outcome of my own case, the consequences with the police, everything. Edit. I am going to press charges because her infidelity and her outburst destroyed our relationship. I want to get back all the money I spent on this wedding. I don't know how legally possible this is, but I'm meeting with a lawyer in a few hours. Update 4. I know this update won't please everyone. Some people want the drama to continue as long as I post updates. But me, I'm just grateful that it's all ending and in a very positive way for me. I have to say, we didn't need to go to court because she offered a financial settlement to pay for the wedding expenses, the damages to my condo, as well as other property and emotional damages. Yes, my lawyer loved this case and said we were going to get everything we could. The settlement was quite favorable, and it required her to take out a personal loan just to be able to pay it all back. The other option would have been to go to trial, but we might have gotten much less. Being able to resolve this in a few months rather than several years is, I think, a great victory. There was also the criminal aspect. My ex obviously wasn't going to get 10 years in prison for this, but she was sentenced to community service, a fine, and had to attend a court-mandated program. That last part alone probably made her even more furious. Good. Social media also turned against her, both with my new evidence and her legal consequences, even against the few people who continued to defend her. Many accounts were deleted, more than I could even count. My ex-fiancée can't even contact me, even if she wanted to. She has a restraining order that prevents her from doing so for at least a few years, which is wonderful for my peace of mind. I know some of you would like this drama to go on forever with endless updates, but having resolved this in such a short time is, I think, a great victory for me. The only idea that comes to mind would be to adopt a wild animal and have it live with me, just so I can post more updates on what's happening. Edit. I'm kidding. I really want this to be the last one. Comment. I wanted to share a few thoughts after everything that has happened. I have learned that respecting yourself means protecting your own peace above all else. Setting boundaries is the clearest way to show yourself that you matter. True kindness also entails having the courage to walk away from situations that are not kind to you. Taking responsibility for your own happiness is one of the most powerful things you can do. Healing truly begins the moment you decide to remove what is hurting you. This journey has also reminded me to cherish the people who lift us up with honesty and integrity. Sometimes, the end of one road is just the start of a much healthier one. Ultimately, choosing your own peace is the greatest victory you can achieve. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.